Okay. So method acting, I don't want to talk too much more about method acting. But like Jared Leto on Suicide Squad played the Joker, and apparently the story, he was apparently sending his co-actors dead rats and used condoms because he thought that was what the Joker would do. Because he was like, I'm feeling what the Joker's feeling, man. And honestly, I mean, this is a bigger thing to talk about, but like, a lot of men feel like hard work is really important. And so when men go into professions like literature professor or actor, these are things that some people think are sort of more girly, which is, again, sexist. But people think it's not like hard work to be a literature professor or to be an actor, because what are you doing? You're reading books, you're pretending to be other people. That's what children do. And so a lot of men do this thing where they try to make reading books or being an actor, it's so difficult, it's so hard, because they want to tell people how hard their jobs are, because that's what they need to be manly or whatever. Which is why you end up, men, for example, traditionally love David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest. There's a certain kind of intellectual academic that loves David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest, and I will admit that I actually really like that book. But people say they love it, I think, because it's 1,500 pages long and it has footnotes, and the footnotes have footnotes. It's a novel. And it goes on forever. It's like the longest fucking novel, because it's hard to read, because they want to make it hard and tough because they're men or whatever. And the same thing goes for acting, right? It's you can't just be like, I enjoy getting up in front of people and pretending to be other people. You have to be like, oh, it's so hard to be an actor. And that's why you have a lot of these actors like Christian Bale who will flip out and scream at people on set for messing up his art. Like, he's just a rich guy yelling at poor people. Why is that a good thing? Or Jared Leto being an asshole. And there's a million examples of male actors who are like, I just feel so strong. You don't know how painful it is to be this kind of character. Like, okay, get over yourself. Anyway, the point is, method acting is one of those things, comes straight out of Wordsworth. This is why I teach these things. I teach these things every year because they're influential and they're important, and they build the world that we currently live in. And oh my God, I forgot. Did I forget to say this is part 8? All right, whatever. Okay, so the point is that we live in the world that Wordsworth built. You know what I should have done between videos is turn the page, but I forgot to do that. So I'm going to do that now, and you're just going to stand here and wait for me to change this thing. Okay. Sorry, it's like a clip, and I got to hang it on a tree. It's a whole production. Okay. So, and I'm going to turn away while I itch my nose, because it's going to look good picking my nose, and I don't want you guys to think badly of me. Okay, let's try this again. Outside, man, leaves and shit. I don't know. I don't like nature. That's why I live in New York. Okay, so Wordsworth then goes on to say, but whatever portion of this faculty we may suppose even the greatest poets to possess, there cannot be a doubt that the language which it will suggest to him must often, in liveliness and truth, fall short of that uttered by men in real life under the actual pressure of those passions, certain shadows of which the poet thus produces or feels to be produced in himself. By the way, notice when he talks about how he can't produce the real thing, only shadows, Plato, right? Not reality, but copies of reality that are not as strong. So he says, yeah, you're going to try to copy real passions, but you're not going to do as good as the real thing. Poets can't. It's difficult to sort of, really, you try to feel what they felt, but you're not going to feel it 100%. You shouldn't tell your friend who just got dumped that you're writing a poem about being dumped and you're using their emotions, and actually you're feeling even more than they're feeling. Like, don't be an asshole to your friend. Okay. He says, however exalted a notion we would wish to cherish of the character of the poet, it is obvious that while he describes and imitates passions, his employment is in some degree mechanical. He's not really feeling it. It's mechanical compared with the freedom and power of real substantial action and suffering. Again, you can see how important Wordsworth thinks feelings are. That, like Plato, like copies of feelings are not as strong as real feelings, because for Wordsworth, feelings is the most important sort of reality that you can express, is how people feel. Again, it's a very modern day idea. If you guys, I'm sure you're familiar with the idea of art therapy. This idea of, people are suffering and people are hurting, and they say make art, right? You're gonna paint to get your emotions out of your system and be healthy by painting or writing poetry about your experiences or journaling. That's straight out of Wordsworth. The whole concept of you have a lot of feelings in your heart and you need to get them out on the page or on the canvas comes from Wordsworth. Homer and Virgil and Spencer and Milton and Dante did not think that was what they were doing with their fucking poems. They were not expressing how they felt. They were telling you the fucking truth about reality, history, ethics, the cosmos. Okay. So it will be the wish of the poet to bring his feelings near to those of the persons whose feeling he describes. Nay, for short spaces of time perhaps, to let himself slip into an entire delusion and even confound and identify his feelings with theirs. That's what I was talking about with method acting. To confound and identify his feelings with theirs. That if you're playing a character, your feelings are that character's feelings and you become that person. By the way, I was mentioning actors like, so Christian Bale, for example, is an actor, and Heath Ledger, I guess, is the Joker, I don't know. But like a lot of actors, Marlon Brando, a lot of actors try kind of become the character, and they feel what the character feels, and just, but there's other, that's not necessary, and that is good acting, but there's other ways to do acting. So for example, Jeff Goldblum is an actor who I do not think feels what the character feels. He always seems a little bit detached, and he's fun to watch, and I love Jeff Goldblum, but he's not like becoming the character in some intense emotional way. He's kind of fucking around in a fun way. It's enjoyable to watch Jeff Goldblum be an actor, because he's always kind of fun to watch. So I guess my point is that real feelings does not necessarily equal good acting, so that fake feelings equal fake acting. Jeff Goldblum has a way of being fake that's very entertaining. I'll watch him for hours. Christopher Walken's another one. He doesn't really act like a human being, but he's always interesting. All right, let's go see what else we got. Okay. He modifying only the language which is suggested to him by a consideration that he describes for a particular purpose, that of giving pleasure. He says the point of language in these poems is to give pleasure, and so you have to modify the language a little bit to make it pleasurable. Now sometimes we've actually pushed Wordsworth farther than he started us on a path, and we kept going. A lot of times now, you can imagine a movie, there's lots of movies and sort of TV shows and stuff where it's not just pleasurable, but sometimes we want to reproduce the way people speak, even if it's not pleasant, which is why you end up with movies with a lot of curse words in them and violence, and it pushes into unpleasant territory sometimes. But Wordsworth, especially because he's a poet, is trying to create real people, real situations, doing I lost my train of thought. Wordsworth is a poet, so he wants to make it beautiful, but there is a kind of art that is less beautiful. And my students tend to expect art to be very entertaining, and in my film class I show them movies that are pushing it past, where it's not even really beautiful anymore. It's gotten into ugly territory, but that's a whole other thing. But actually, I would consider a movie that's being aggressively realistic to the point of being unpleasant to be taking Wordsworth and pushing him a little bit farther than he wants to go. Okay, let's see what else we got. Here then he will apply the principle of selection which has already been insisted upon. He will depend upon for his removing what would otherwise be painful or disgusting in the passion. You want to be real, but you also want to make it enjoyable for the audience. He will feel that there is no necessity to trick out or elevate nature, right? Don't be fancy, you don't need to invent a bunch of dragons and shit, just be real. And the more industriously he pursues this principle, the deeper will be his faith that no words, which his fancy or imagination can suggest, will be to be compared with those which are the emanations of reality and truth. And there again, you see some Plato stuff there. That reality and truth, the most important thing is reality, although for Wordsworth, it's always the reality of feelings. Okay, cool. This is going pretty good. All right. Hitchcock, very famous, he was a movie director. Hitchcock said that movies are real life with the dull bits cut out. Now, obviously, that's not true of superhero movies, which are very unrealistic. But he's got a good point there. There's something that's exactly what Wordsworth is saying. Is that he wants to have common people speaking in common language about everyday things, but really expressing the feelings. But we're going to get rid of things. He says he wants to get rid of things that are disgusting or repulsive, but like also things that are boring. So that what he wants to give you is reality. Hitchcock says movies are reality with the dull bits cut out. Wordsworth says that poetry is reality with the disgusting parts taken out. because he wants to he doesn't want to disgust you. He wants to, poetry should be pleasure and beauty and these kinds of things. A bit like Oscar Wilde. Okay, cool. I'll pick it up in the next video. Yeah.